What I brought here is a conventional arm prosthesis, and it can be used for people with upper extremity amputations. And it works like this. It has a spring or sling, which you place on the other side of the arm in order to open this hand. So in this way you can take different objects like this piece, and you can open the fingers. It's worn at the shoulder usually, not like the way I'm wearing it now. And you can take such objects and use the prosthesis somehow. However, to use it for more complex objects, or for smaller objects, like a coin or so, it does not work so well. Yeah? To grasp this little coin with this bulky prosthesis is a higher challenge. And the most advanced prostheses do not satisfactorily work. So what the patients are usually doing is, if there's a coin, they just take the other arm to take it. However, to perform manual tasks like opening a little jam of marmalade, a box or a little glass of marmalade or jam, like in the hotels is offered, or to open a wallet and take out a coin, or to carry heavy loads with bags or boxes. For such applications, the prostheses are not satisfactory. And that's the reason why only 1/3 of patients with arm amputations are using prostheses. And that's why we thought, let's organize an event where labs and industry is pushed and motivated to develop more advanced technology, which is of real use for the patients. We have to go back to the first slide, please. Can we go back to the first slide? That's not the first slide. Okay, thanks. No, this doesn't work. Okay, there are about 40,000 amputations per year only in the USA. And since many patients are quite young and have a very high living expectancy, the prevalence, so the number of existing patients, is very high. About 1.7 million amputees are living in the States. In other countries, not so well-developed countries, we have an even higher number of patients because of war victims or victims due to landmines, for example. The most advanced prosthesis, one of the most advanced prostheses, is this C-leg from Otto Bock. It has been sold 50,000 times all over the world, although it's not the best prosthesis which would be desired, because almost all prostheses which are offered nowadays are passive. They might have some electronics, some technology, some well-developed technology, but all the devices are dissipative. That means they're absorbing energy. They're not producing kinematic or movement energy. And that's the problem. In that way, it's very cumbersome to walk stairs. If there are no hand railings, the gait is very asymmetric, and in the long run, not healthy for the healthy joints. Or it's very exhausting in general if the prosthesis does not produce energy. And there's a high risk of stumbling because the gait is asymmetric. So there's a great chance to apply advanced technology to add some motors and some control strategies, some new kind of interface technology to get a better gait function with the prosthesis. There's one famous research team in Chicago, and they made a very impressive event 2 years ago, that this patient is walking upstairs the Willis Tower, the former Sears Tower in Chicago, more than 100 floors, using an actuated, so a motorized prosthesis. So that worked quite well, but these technologies are still not mature. There's only one company at the moment selling such kind of actuated motor prosthesis. The number of patients benefiting from this technology is very limited so far. There's another company which has been founded by the famous researcher Hugh Herr. He's also working on actuated prosthesis, starting with actuation in the ankle joint. Also, we work in our lab in Zurich on an actuated knee prosthesis, where we combine motors with passive springs. The passive springs are partly in parallel to the drive or in series to the drive, which has some advantages concerning the motor characteristic of the joint, which has advantages of absorbing impact energy at the heel contact during gait. And we also work especially on the special interface. Even if you have the best prosthesis, the best motor, with the best efficiency, the question is, how do you control it? How do you, the patient, transfer its movement intuition into the device? And how is the movement of the device and the interaction with the ground being transferred back to the human? These are current challenges where people work on. There are 65 million wheelchair users all over the world. Wheelchairs are well-established devices. They can be made quite lightweight. They can be folded to put them into the car. However, they're still not good enough to climb stairs. There are some devices, but they're too expensive, too heavy, and not so easy to use. So there's no acceptance so far for using a wheelchair to climb stairs. There are some developments going on, like this device being developed by a group of Professor Siegwart in Zurich, which has a combination of wheels and this kind of chain to allow climbing of stairs. There are about 500,000 new cases of spinal cord injury per year. These patients sometimes can recover if the lesion is incomplete. About 70% of lesions are incomplete, so sometimes they can walk with crutches, but often they need to use a wheelchair. But as said, the wheelchair is not the best device to walk stairs or to stand, to talk to somebody from eye to eye, or to grasp something from a shelf when you're in the supermarket. So novel technologies coming out now more and more are exoskeletons being used for spinal cord injured patients. And they're not better than wheelchairs. It will take decades until they work in a satisfactory and fast way. They're still not mature, but they can sometimes already be a relief. In combination with a wheelchair maybe, patients can stand up, walk some steps, walk up hills, up some stairs and so on. This patient was famous in London, taking part in the marathon. There was a standard marathon at the Summer Olympics in London, and this woman started at the same race, but it took her much longer because she's much slower. It took her 16 days, and she ran to the target line and had a lot of media interest. Was in all newspapers did report about this performance. Another example which was famous was the kickoff, not the real one, but one day before the kickoff at the opening of the FIFA World Cup, there was a patient, a spinal cord injured patient, also wearing an exoskeleton doing a kick with the ball. But you could see it was not working well. It was not working in a very fast and fluent way. These technologies are still being developed. There are already several companies offering such kind of exoskeletal devices to support gait, not only in patients, also in machining, in industry, where people can sit or are supported doing assembling tasks in the car industry, for example. There are several labs working on such kind of technologies where gait is supported for spinal cord injured patients mainly, or other patients with leg lesions. Next slide, please. The current tendency in research is to use soft exosuits to somehow try to incorporate the technology into the pant, into the clothes, to make them more comfortable, easier to use. Also, it's also important from a cosmetic point of view not to wear too bulky devices. Next slide, please. And that's why we came up now with the idea of the Cybertron, that we want to let the industry and the research, many research labs, compete with different technologies, and the technology should be made in that way that it is useful for the patients, that the patients are finally accepting the technology, which is still not mature. And by organizing this event in a large stadium, we want to reduce or try to diminish the burdens and the barriers between the people with disabilities and the researchers and the developing labs, and also the general public, which are still somehow tabooing people with disabilities. There's still barriers between the society and people with disabilities. And by making an event where people see what are the problems and what are possible solutions, we try to reduce these barriers. So we designed 6 disciplines where people with different kinds of disabilities can compete against each other. These people include patients with spinal cord injuries, paraplegics who have lesions in the lower legs, tetraplegics where legs and arms are paralyzed, people with leg amputations as well as people with arm amputations, and some people with very high lesions, including, for example, ALS, people or spinal cord injured patients with a very high lesion. We are organizing this in a arena, in one of the largest Swiss indoor stadiums, where also a first league ice hockey team is playing, the Kolping Arena. And we have the 6 disciplines organized on this floor. So one discipline, for example, is a muscle stimulation bike race, where completely paralyzed patients are artificially stimulated by electrodes to activate their natural muscles. That's a well-established technology, but still not being accepted in the best way. It's still not mature. It's possible to use conventional bikes without any drive and to use the muscle force of the patients, but the stimulation is artificial. The stimulation can be performed through electrodes on the skin and also implanted electrodes, which are commercially available. That's one photograph where you see such an example. And in the race, in the Cybathlon, people can come with any kind of bike as long as it is passive. It can have 2 wheels, 3 wheels, 4 wheels. And the stimulation pattern can also be artificial. It has to be designed that way that is optimal. One problem, for example, is to get enough force and to get enough endurance to avoid fatigue. Fatigue is still much stronger than in natural stimulation. That's why we organize a quite long race. 7 rounds have to be done at this edge, at these tracks in the stadium, making up to about 1,000 meters of length. And then the people can compete. Always 2 candidates, 2 pilots are running at the same time, but from opposite positions starting. Another discipline is one using exoskeletons or powered exoskeletal devices that don't need to be powered. We make the rules for the technology quite liberal. Any kind of system can be worn, as long as it is safe and functional. Next slide, please. Okay, thanks. Then, these are the race tracks. The race tracks comprises 7 different obstacles, which are mainly obstacles from daily life, like walking on a small path, represented by a little bar here, then walking up an inclined slope, walking on gravel and stone and sand, walking up a ramp, opening a door, closing a door, walking down a ramp, walking on kind of stones to show that it's possible to go define step lengths, sitting down on a soft sofa, standing up and walking up the stairs, walking down the stairs. The difficulty level of the slopes of the tracks increases from obstacle to obstacle, and there will be 4 tracks next to each other so that people can compete next to each other to make it more exciting. Another discipline is a race with prosthetic devices. They will use the same or almost the same track course, also 4 pilots running next to each other. Another one is a race with actuated wheelchairs. Here we just say the wheelchairs have to be actuated to allow it to be used for patients with high lesions who cannot use their arms, but the kind of technology is quite free as long as it is safe. It can have 2 wheels, 4 wheels, can be any kind of actuation and so on. Then another discipline is a race with upper extremity prostheses, where one task will be, for example, this kind of wire task, where this electric loop has to be transported or moved along this wire, but the wire must not be touched. If it's being touched, then there will be a warning signal. That's just to show the performance of the prosthesis. It's not actual task of daily living, but it's a performance task. And the track course will comprise several performance tasks. Another one is, for example, this kind of puzzle where the prosthesis has to show that it's possible to apply different grasps to different kind of grips and then move these puzzle pieces from left to right. Then there will be some activity of the living tasks where beam manual tasks, for example, should be shown. So people, the pilots, have to carry bags and boxes from this side to the other side. They have to carry also objects to prepare a breakfast table to one of these tables. And then they have to show that they can perform beam manual tasks like opening a little glass of jam, opening a little butter, cut bread, put the butter onto the bread, and so on. And that will be done by 4 pilots next to each other, and we record the time then. Last but not least, there will be also a brain-computer interface race, where people with very high lesions are able to run an avatar in a virtual scenery. It's possible to record brain signals and to classify different kind of thoughts, different kind of commands. It's not very established yet, but it's possible to distinguish some commands, like 2 or 3 different commands. There's still a delay time of 2 or 3 seconds. The systems are only working well in the lab so far. But we want to bring them to be useful. So 4 patients will be located at one spot or 4 spots in the stadium, and then there will be a computer game which is being developed. It's already finished, the development, by a University for Game Design in Zurich, where these 4 avatars can be driven by 4 subjects. And the faster they can think about the commands and the more reliable this brain-computer interface works, the faster the avatar will go, run, and get to the finish line. How do we do the points? There will be qualification races and final races, and each pilot is able to come twice to one qualification race and one final race. In the qualifications, we just count the number, in most of the disciplines, just the number of obstacles which have been overcome. It's not so important the timing, it's more important just to show that it's possible to overcome different obstacles. So one pilot might overcome just 3 of these obstacles. This guy will then get 3 points. Another one will get 5 points. If a third subject or pilot is getting 5 points, but from different, also 5 points from different obstacles, it counts the higher difficulty level as a second ranking. The best pilots with the highest number of points will then compete in the finals. We will have then the A final with the 4 best pilots competing for the 3 medals. But also the others can participate in B finals just to get a final ranking. Just in the bike race, we have only 2 people running because there's not more space for more pilots. So we need then the A final and the B final to distribute the 3 medals. We get already quite many registrations. It's still time. The event will be in October next year. But we have already almost 50 registrations, binding registrations of teams who already paid to come from all over the world, many from Switzerland, many from England, some from France, Italy, USA, Japan, Singapore, Australia, and so on. It's quite evenly distributed. Most popular so far are the exoskeletal races and the BCI race. There's a large community of BCI developments nowadays. We got a lot of visibility. I was invited to get to the CNN, to give an interview at CNN, or BBC was reporting already. We were happy that in the large Japanese news television, for example, the Cybertron was advertised. Japan is applying to organize the Cybertron in the year 2020 when there will be the Summer Olympics in Tokyo. Seoul is competing for this event, so there's already international visibility. We were present in many news, radio stations and magazines with announcements of the Cybertron. And I also hope to see you there. It's on October 2016. tickets will be sold soon, not expensive. And now I hope the movie still works to show you, give you an impression about how it will look like. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, so
Thanks.
the Olympic Games for augmented humans is a reality.
It is, yeah.
Brilliant. I think something that we saw there very clearly is, as you said, the fact that your devices are allowing people, enabling people to overcome incredible adversity and to gain in confidence and in esteem. It's a very powerful and very important evolution for these people who suffer so much. Are there other patient groups who will be able to benefit in the future?
Yes, of course, it's possible to imagine many more disciplines, for example. Mm-hmm. Of course, we just reach some kind of indication, some kind of a limited group of people with upper extremity amputation, which are just above the wrist joint. That's just a quite small limitation, of course, of all amputations existing. There are many other diseases affecting not only the motor system, but also the sensor system. We could imagine also to organize races with people who are blind or deaf using technology. Okay. So we could extend it to many different directions, and we will extend it with the next cybertrons taking place in Tokyo and Seoul and other places.
In Tokyo?
Yes.
So it's 2016 is the first.
Right.
And in Tokyo it will be?
2020.
Okay.
And after? We're now negotiating to do it in Seoul in 2018. That will be the Winter Olympics. Fantastic,
fantastic. I think Claire in London shows us a real example of what it's all about. So thank you. Thank you very much for sharing these amazing, amazing technologies with us today.